Tennessee, David Tulis.
A baby in Montgomery County, Tennessee, faces death today in state custody at the hand of a state judge in Montgomery County. His name is Steffen Rivenburg, and his mother, Lisa, and his grandmother and his family and friends and supporters are begging God for mercy for this child who has in state custody gotten sick and has had surgeries needed. And the judge has given the family until today to find an infant cardiologist to obtain a heart transplant for this child who is in the custody of the state. It is a grievous situation here in Tennessee. And another picture of the state child abuse industry. The state of Tennessee has a financial interest in the kidnapping of every child that goes into the foster care system. And that is because it receives stipends from Washington, the good people in Washington. So there's a large incentive for the administration, for bureaucracy, all serving Governor Bill Haslam and the executive branch of state government, to bring new souls into state custody. And here we have another medical kidnap. Medical kidnapping is a remarkable phenomenon, and the parties doing it are often state licensed people in hospitals, nurses and staff, and state licensed doctors. And then the child is removed from the loving arms of his parents, whom are accused. Now, they're accused of not looking out for the interest of the child. Somehow, if they miss doctor's appointments, if they question vaccinations, if they refuse vaccinations, or if they do things that are, you might say, unorthodox, these parents face the jeopardy of the state kidnapping their child in the hospital. So hospitals are dangerous for many reasons. Not only can you get C. diff there and other lethal problems, you have a child there and you face a problem of the police officer standing there at the door with his hand in his webbing, supporting the arrival of the two young staffers in their white gowns, there to take your child from you because, ma'am, we think that you are not looking out for the best interest of your child because you're asking for a second opinion of our recommendation. And we really think that that's not proper. And you are supposing that your judgment is better than the doctors who signed the order letting us demand the service that we intend to give to your infant. This is David Tulis, and we are glad that you're giving us just a couple minutes of your time. This and much more. City Council yesterday had a meeting, a regular Tuesday meeting, and it was partly given over to probably the largest part of the meeting was given over to the first reading and the first review of Councilmember Chip Henderson's map, use of a map to control you might say to control the internet. Now, I know you laugh at that when I mentioned that my headline today to Donna Williams, who is the bureaucrat in charge of economic development out of the mayor's office, she didn't understand the headline. She said, I don't understand what you're saying. How can anybody use a map to control the internet? But that is what has happened. And it might sound strange. It might sound incomprehensible, but that is what City Council is planning on doing, to use a map, to use the cartographer's art, right? The fruit of cartography, the science of map making, to control the internet and effectively throw up a screen of flak against Gig City, which is perhaps the idea of Gig City is just a fantasy. Perhaps it's just a bit of marketing that already seems a little dated. Like when you see companies sometimes when you pass by Lee Highway, you see a company named Modular Computing. It just sounds very old-fashioned. It would be like encountering a company once run by by former Georgia Representative Brian Joyce called micro computing consulting, right? And those are names of old companies that were in the 80s and the 90s, very current at the time, but now they seem a little dated. Is it possible that Gig City has that same old, somewhat parchmenty, yellow fringed flavor, and that it doesn't mean anything? It's just a bit of marketing, like looking at an old postcard from the 50s of a city, let's say St. Paul, where you visited your aunt as a teenager with your family, and there in your family album you have the postcards, very brightly Kodachrome color, very overly colored photographs of St. Paul and the river and the towers there, and it just looks. At the time, it was very fresh and very current. But as you look at it, you just see how old everything is. How you have Ford Fairlanes and old Buicks and very old-fashioned architectures. And there on the side, there you can see a Howard Johnson's, right, in the postcard. Well, that's kind of what we are looking at here. Is Gig City just an old postcard, an old bit of puffery for a pretentious southern town? Or is Gig City, does it really mean something? And I would like to suggest, even though I'm a kind of a skeptic about Gig City as a government-funded boondoggle, a digital bridge to nowhere, even though I do include that as my analysis, I'm not including that right now. Okay, I'm not including that right now because I want you to understand that the idea of the Gig City is as something that identifies Chattanooga to the world, that it has its place, and that it's not just a bit of not a bit of trufflery, right? It's not just a bit of nothing that we can ignore. And I say that because City Council, planning on making some important mistakes, is doing that right now. It is considering an act which is arbitrary and capricious, constitutionally speaking. It's constitutionally suspect. Because it doesn't follow due process. It rejects due process, and has it's really a kind of the plan, the map plan, the overlay plan, as Councilmember Chip Henderson calls it, is a workaround. It is an effort to mitigate the damage of the preceding era, right? The preceding era that we've been laboring under for 45 years, probably more. And that is zoning, the whole pretense of zoning, overseen by the well-besuited and well-bow-tied John Bridger of the Hamilton County and Chattanooga Planning Commission. He was there giving testimony about the proposal as I wandered in yesterday, quite by providence, by the way, and just wandered in. I was following another story, and the story about the unmarked police cars. Now, this is another story that we are working on here at Nooga Radio, and I just want to tease you about that so that you'll not dare to miss a moment of our program. Even though I know you have just a few minutes. Okay, I understand that, and so I'm just trying to pack it all in here, just so you'll know kind of where we are. Okay, where you, my listener, are. You who have 5 minutes. If you have 5 minutes of David Tulis, and here just touching on the issues from his Tulesian free market local economy perspective, that you have got the fresh air, you've got the deep oxygenation of your body and your mind in that 5 minutes. That's kind of what I want to do. So let me just drift on here. Well, not drift, but dart on just quickly. How it was I wandered into the city council meeting yesterday with my own bedraggled bow tie and my scruffed shoes, right? The journalist with the bow tie and the mismatched jacket and the scruffy shoes. I was over at the city attorney's office and was asking, looking for Wade Hinton, who was not there. He was at the city council meeting, which I didn't quite realize at the time. And I asked Phil Noblet, who is deputy city attorney, about your question. Okay, here's your question. Why are there suddenly all kinds of unmarked police cars making traffic stops on Highway 58, Highway 153, and I've seen 2 there in the past 3 or 4 days, and on Hickson Pike. I think that's right. I'm trying to remember now where I've seen 2 for sure on civilian car, unmarked secret police cars making traffic stops, their lights flashing, pulling up behind motorists who are hapless enough to have been going over the statutory limit. What is the authority to do that? Because it is a public danger to have unmarked cars. It is a danger and threat to the public. They have to be explicitly authorized, and someone's going to have to make a case about this before circuit or criminal court, because there is a problem here by the use of these cars. They are intimidating. They cause terror to the traveler. Half of travelers, half of vehicular motor operators are female. Why should any woman stop for a car that doesn't have clearly public service use? That being visible in the rearview mirror. And that would be what? That would be the mounted lights on the top that indicate this is an official state car, or an agent of the state that would be serving the municipal corporation of Chattanooga and its executive branch. That would be the police department. And so therefore the person is not a real danger to you. I mean, he may be a danger to the points on your license. And he may be danger to you by citing you to Sessions Court or to City Court, but he's not a danger to your person in that he will violate you, right? He will rape, pillage, plunder, seize your goods. Right? He's not going to do that unless, of course, he's going to seize your car and your briefcase under civil asset forfeiture, which he might do. I mean, he might do that. I mean, it's certainly possible that police officers can steal from you, and they do it to the tune of millions of dollars a year, thanks to the General Assembly and your Republicans and Democrats who have allowed this and who have not stopped it, right? Though Todd Gardenhire made some kind of effort this past session. So there I was in the city attorney's office. So Phil Noblett says that he's going to look into the statute, because I said, well, my listener, that's you. He wants to know under what authority these cars are operating and these officers are operating. I do have a response from the chief of police's PR guy. His name is well, I've forgotten his name, but I do have an email from him that gives some reason for this process, but is simply legally inadequate. It's simply inadequate, and so we're going to have to pursue this question with Wade Hinton. And on the way after the meeting, I was there in my car charging my battery on my phone and dictating my story, and Wade Hinton just rushed past. I said, Wade, excuse me, Wade. And I introduced myself to Wade Hinton, who is the city attorney. I said, well, I left you an email, a voicemail this morning requesting information about this authority for unmarked cars. Just wanted to let you know that that's me, David Tulis, and here I am. And I did have a nice chat with Philip Noblett, the deputy city attorney, because my listener wants to know what authority exists for these cars to operate, because it is an evident danger. It is an evident danger for the listener and the listener's wife to be stopped by private cars. That is simply extraordinarily dangerous to private property and personal bodily integrity, given that women are often waylaid by frauds, right? By private fraudsters and imposters who wear uniforms and then end up raping and abusing the gentler members of the gentler sex. Well, this is David Tulis, and the story that is out of Montgomery County is truly remarkable. Even the guardian ad litem for this child, who is 7 months old, has given up. Even she has said, well, we care about the quality of life, right? We guardian ad litems care about the quality of life, and we think that it might be best if this child, if baby Steffen can have quality of life by being removed from it, right? There's no quality of life for him. He won't survive a heart transplant. And so the best interest of the child, in fact, is death. It is death. And I'm looking here at Health Impact News. The editor of that website is called Medical Kidnap. Let's see, medicalkidnap.com, that has numerous important stories on it about this the state child abuse industry, and we are hearing about that. There's a reference to Dr. Harold Andrew Smith, was among the witnesses, told the judge that the baby Steffen can be aroused, but that he has no chance of surviving a heart transplant. This, despite the fact that the baby is responsive and alert when he is allowed to come out from heavy sedation. There's a video about that. If the family is not able to provide an expert quickly, then the story says the final decision as to his life lasting will be made by doctors at Vanderbilt University. Even if the parents refuse to consent to their son being taken off the machine, the judge's ruling means that I believe is expected today, that the doctors can override that decision. Judge Shelton's game-changing ruling means that the doctors have been awarded the right to decide when the baby's life ends. Based on the evidence of the baby's cognizance and intentional responses, the family has been arguing that taking him off of life support amounts to murder. They understand that unless there's a miracle or a heart transplant, baby Steffen does not have long to live. That's Montgomery County, Tennessee. But they want the timing to be God's decision, not that of Vanderbilt doctors. And that is a very important report. I don't have a lot of details right now, but it's on medicalkidnap.com. That's medicalkidnap.com. I suggest you subscribe to that website to know what's happening. This is an important area. And though we've covered it repeatedly here at Nooga Radio at AM 1240 and FM 92.7, I feel that I've undercovered it. I feel that there are 8,000 children that have been stolen from their families. In probably more than half, my guess, are under pretext only. Again, because there is an economic incentive for the Department of Children's Services serving Governor Bill Haslam. Right, this is Bill Haslam's agency. This is a Republican and Democrat agency, and serving him, it has continued to seize children under the flimsiest pretexts, and so this family has a very short window of time to find a pediatric cardiologist somewhere in the South who is willing to testify. And this doctor, in the next day, has to avail himself of the urgent claims upon his time and his person to come and testify that the baby is eligible for a heart transplant, and to testify in his best and honest and good faith medical background that the child would survive the operation. So that's what's facing this family, the Rivenburg family. Lisa Rivenburg is the mother, and the child's name is Stephen. Now, the question about Airbnb is covered in detail at the website for The Man Who Matters, and that's Nooganomics.com. And the coverage today, the coverage this morning, I would say is important. Now, if you're my listener, you think that radio is just a passive medium. Well, it is. And I'll tell you why radio is such a wonderful platform. And I want to just say something just briefly about it, because in a way it's kind of deceptive. Radio is immediately enlivening, immediately vigorous. It's right between your ears as you're listening to me, my voice here, David Tulis. And that's why radio advertising works, because it convinces people to go buy the sandwich, go buy the car lot and check out the new Mazdas, the new Subarus. Now, the problem, though, is that you think that somehow if you hear it on the radio, it's just the passing scene, right? Because it's a passive medium, and you turn on the radio or you turn on your NoogaRadio.com just sort of in passing, because you're doing something else, right? You're driving, you're doing some drudgery, you're shellacking some furniture in your workshop. You turn on the radio, so it's all passive. Somehow you think that what we say here doesn't matter, and that it doesn't apply to the right now, and that there's nothing you really need to do from what you hear. Well, here's an exception. I would say that a lot of the things we discuss, even things that are, you might say, the positive solutions to the coming debt collapse and continuing atomization of society of the kind that took the life yesterday or 2 days ago of Rick Davis's the jeweler Rick Davis's son in Orlando. Despite all these things, there are things we need to be doing. But here now, there is something I think you can do. I would suggest that you, my listener, contact your city council representative and tell Darren Ledford, look, if you're a conservative, don't be a conservative, be a liberal, okay? Because Darren Ledford and others on the council, they're conservatives, and that's their problem. The problem is they want to conserve the old legacy system, the old regulatory control mechanisms of city government, as against what? As against the internet, as against gig city, as against the sharing economy that takes place on servers, on multi-universe platforms, which are platforms such as Airbnb and numerous rivals in the short-term vacation rental market, as it's called. I just refer to that as the Airbnb market, because the Airbnb is the biggest player, and it represents all of them. And I'm not worried about Darren Ledford's suggestion that I'm giving that company free advertising. Well, so what? But the city council, with its map, is going to be defeating Gig City. It's going to be defeating the idea of a free city, the idea of an international city, of a high-speed internet city, which is what Gig City is all about. Why do we have a city utility devoted to the internet? And here now we have the old guard city council, even with new members like Erskine Oglesby and Demetrius Coonrod, planning on suppressing the marketplace by regulation, taxation, permission regimes, etc. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Cops say Shane Keller and Brittany Renee Ware have both been arrested after the police say they had methamphetamine inside their car, along with needles, pipes, and a handgun. And Miss Ware's autistic son was said to be in the back seat of the car. Cops say they stopped their car because it had a stolen license plate on the back of it. 11 overdoses have been reported in Georgia, and 2 deaths so far. Pills labeled as Percocet may not actually be Percocet sold on the street. It may be something much more powerful. The police are still trying to find out what. The Chattanooga City Council is trying to figure out if some buildings should be no-go zones for guns. A Tennessee State House bill has requirements for gun-free zones, which would not be met by the current circumstances for city council meetings. And the first hearing for an ordinance which would suss out where you can use Airbnb begins today. Maps will be created which would zone out where short-term vacation rental services would be allowed and where they won't be. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You expect lots of sunshine and good-looking weather for your Wednesday. Becoming breezy, afternoon highs near 82 tonight. Fair, comfortable lows upper 50s. Pleasant Thursday, but more clouds. Could see a spotty shower high staying into the 70s. More sunshine back into the lower 80s Friday. Personalized medical care for you and your family, close to home. Hamilton Physician Group Primary Care in Calhoun, Georgia is now open at 407 2nd Avenue. For more, 706-529-9041. And I'm Sports Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Hi, this is Eric Felton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. EJ Pelton Company, 332-3339.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town needs